All right, and I can see some folks are still joining us. So let's just give it maybe one more minute here. And then we will get started.
Please dismiss the walkers and YMCA.
All right, we are right at 2:30 Central Time and 3:30 Eastern. So let me start by welcoming you again and just introducing myself again. My name is Avra Robinson, and I'm an instructor with an organization called EdTechTeacher. We work to support teachers all over the country. And Laura, hi, I saw your name and immediately recognized you. You're from Reed Custer, so you're my Illinois friend, and I'm happy that you're here. So you guys, I'm excited to be here with you this afternoon to talk about Google Forms. And so the way that I kind of have this session structured is, just a brief introduction to forms, but I'm kind of assuming some basic knowledge. That being said, if you've got questions along the way, please feel free to, you can unmute, ask me a question, you can put something in the chat. If I don't hear from you, I'm going to figure you're kind of settled in and just sitting back and relaxing and watching. So I don't have a lot of interactivity necessarily built into this session, just because I know, if you're here, you've probably taught all day and you're tired and ready to be done. So just sit back and relax, do as much participation as you feel comfortable doing. I have a ton of ideas to share. I could talk for over an hour, but I'm more than happy to answer questions. So please feel free if you've got them, okay? All right, I'm gonna share my screen and start to present ideas, but I'm going to keep an eye on the chat. Okay. I always do. And I'm always really excited when people chime in, ask questions, share ideas, use the chat. Use your chat for each other, like to talk with each other if you want, or to ask me questions. Either one is fine. I'll keep an eye on it. Okay. So this session is sponsored by the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education in Massachusetts, and it's sponsored by Google. So in cooperation or in partnership with EdTechTeacher. So this is the 9th one in a series, and we've got them all recorded. So if you want to take a look, I have a link at the end of the slides for you where you can see what's coming up and see the ones that we've done before. And that way you can always go back and rewatch ones that you missed, because we started doing them over the summer. Okay, so I am recording, and you can feel free to, to watch it over and over again if you need to, or want to, or share it with people you know. So I'm not going to read all this to you, but we're here today to talk about Google Forms. I am going to share these slides with you at the end, and that way you've got them. Okay, there's links to examples and things like that. Our goal is to take a look at formative assessment strategies and figure out ways that we can give timely and relevant feedback to kids, as we collect data through the forms, see how they're doing, that touch and base with them, seeing, collecting their prior knowledge, and then after a lesson, taking a look at, maybe what they learned and how well they're understanding the concepts that we're exploring in class. Okay, so I'm going to start with just a brief introduction, because I want to make sure that everybody feels really comfortable with Google Forms. So Google Forms is a Google tool, right? And we can get to it a couple of different ways. One, you could head to your Google Drive, go to the new button, go down to Forms, no problem there. You could also go to forms.google.com. Okay, that's going to take you to that general Google Forms page. And then if you want to start a new one, you can use that plus sign to do that. Okay, forms.new or form.new is also going to launch a new Google form for you. So lots of different ways to just create a new one. There are kind of 3 environments, and I'm going to definitely do some live demos, so you'll see all this today, but there's kind of 3 environments in Forms, and that's what makes it a little bit different than the other programs. There's an area where we're creating and we're editing the form, we're writing the questions, we're putting the answers in, things like that. So that's one area of Forms. Then there's another whole section, another whole environment, that's what we push out to our kids or to our parents or our colleagues, whoever we're creating the form for. So that's kind of the live form, and I'll show you that as well. And then There's also like a spreadsheet that can be built with the data from, from the form as it's collected. And so that's like another environment. So like the responses is another environment. So there's a couple, there's lots of moving parts to forms. And so I want to make sure that, you feel really comfortable there. So to begin with, when you're creating forms, you can have lots of different responses. And I'm just going to quickly go through them with the idea that I'll give you these slides. You can always circle back to them and take a look. Okay. So to begin with, we can have a short answer. So you can just do a quick, this can be up to a sentence or so, where kids just type in an answer. All right. Another one would be a multiple choice. Okay. So you can do multiple choice. The multiple choice ones can be graded for us if we put them into the form of a quiz, which I'll talk about in a little bit. All right. So you can do multiple choice. And did I go right past long answer? That's weird. Okay, so I guess I skipped one. There's also the longer answer. I apologize, which I'll show you. And that's where you're going to have more of like a paragraph response. Okay, multiple choice. And then there's check boxes. So you guys, the difference between multiple choice and check boxes, if you look over here, there are circles here and you only can choose one with multiple choice. Whereas with check boxes, you can have a multiple select, right? So kids could choose more than one response. So, if you are surveying your faculty, hey, what's everybody want on their pizza? I want cheese and sausage, that kind of thing. Okay, where you're having two things possibly. So then there's also a drop-down menu, okay? And the drop-down menu is more like multiple choice where you can only choose one response, okay? And you can have all different options there as well. And then there is a file upload option. It's interesting, the file upload option came right before Google Classroom kind of came out. And everybody was really excited because it was like, oh, finally we have a way for kids to be able to turn in a file to teachers, because those people that didn't have a learning management system didn't really have a vehicle to be able to, push out work to kids and get it back. So you may not use this very much, but it's there for you if you ever wanted kids to turn in something. They can actually upload a file and then it goes into a folder in your Google Drive. Okay. There's a wonderful linear scale option. So like, hey, on a scale of 1 to 5, how well do you understand fractions? Or how great are you feeling about, the cities in Africa that we just explored or something like that? So that's nice because what you can also do is label that. So like 1, you could say, I'm still confused. And 5 could be like, I'm good to go, so you could kind of give kids an idea of like, if you're a 1 or a 2, this is what it means. If you're a 5, this is what it means. Okay. And I know I'm going through these quickly, guys, but that's because I've got so much to show you. So feel free to slow me down and ask questions if you need to. The multiple choice grid is pretty cool. Okay. So this is what it looks like when it's built. And it's like, you can ask the question, like, for example, I do this when I'm about to teach a group, like, please rate your comfort or familiarity with the following concepts or programs. And then you can have like 4 columns, I'm brand new, I've tried it, but I need help. I'd like to learn more, or I've got a pretty firm grasp. Now, this might not be the language that we use with our kiddos, but what I want you to know is that then you can list a bunch of stuff here. And then what happens is that the people that are responding need to reply to each row in your multiple choice grid. So it can be an easy way if you're going to kind of ask the same question over and over again about a series of things. That's a neat way to do it. And then there's also like a checkbox grid, and it's the same kind of idea, except that you could have multiple, check marks. So you could check here and here. So, sometimes people are feeling like they could kind of be a 2 or a 3, if you would. I'm going to look at Lisa's question real quick. I imagine that this could be good for a mini review for science or social studies. Yeah, exactly. It might give you a sense of kind of like touching base with where your kids are at and getting a sense of maybe where they maybe need a little bit more. And watch another video, or let's talk about it again, or let's read another passage or something like that. Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for chiming in. I appreciate it. And then you guys, there's also date and time in forms. So what's nice about this is that you could like send something out, to parents and say, hey, when is a good time to meet? Or you could ask kids to put in their birthday if you wanted, that kind of thing. So there's lots of things you could do with date and time. And then also one thing to know is that You can also have your answers be images, okay? So this is particularly great for elementary folks, because if you've got some early readers, if you're a, pre-K, K1 teacher, maybe, what did you do last night? If you're doing like a beginning of the day check-in with kids, you might read a book and then have a picture of a kid, reading a book, watching TV, playing a video game, that kind of thing, just to have those images there to kind of support the context and help them with their reading. But likewise, if you're teaching 5th grade, you might be listing like which one of these images is Illinois, and you might have 3 different states and then they need to choose. So lots of purposes for that idea of images. So as you're working through your form, and I'll show you this live in just a sec, you're going to see this floating toolbar, okay? And it's over on the right-hand side, and it just kind of floats down as you're creating more questions. And I've kind of broken it down here in terms of what, each section, each icon does, or each button does. So let's go through those. The first one is to add a question, okay? And I wanted to just show this to you guys in the slides first, instead of like on my screen, because it's just nicer and bigger here for you to see, so you can see the different components. But this is where we're going to add a question. You're going to type the question right here. You're going to type possible responses here. This is where you're going to be able to drop down the menu and choose from all those things I just talked about, okay? These 6 little dots right here are going to be how you can grab the question and move it up and down. So if you've got 3 or 4 of them there and you decide you want to reorder them, you can totally do that, okay? And I'll show you that. And then this is how you can duplicate a question. Okay, so say you're doing a states and capitals quiz, you might say, what is the capital of Illinois? And then you might duplicate that and put, what is the capital of Massachusetts? What is the capital of California? What is the capital of Florida? So on and so forth. If you want to delete one, you can do that with this, okay? And then there's a toggle switch here that lets you turn on and off whether the question is required. So if the question's required in Google Forms, what that means is that your respondent, parent, faculty member, kid can't turn it in without answering that question. Okay, so that makes it a required question. So that's kind of what this button does. It creates this environment, and we'll look at it more. The next button down lets you import questions from other forms. So if you are putting together a test that's based on 3 different quizzes, you can literally go into those quizzes, pull questions, and put them into your test without having to retype them, okay? So that's a possibility as well. And it kind of brings you to this, where you can search for a form, go find the form, and then click on it, and you can bring in more questions. The T over here, this is going to create a title. And it's going to allow you to, like, if you want to put a section in, which we'll talk about, you could create a title and a description for that section. Okay. The next one is actually not putting an image as part of the question. I'm sorry. Yeah, as part of the answers to the question, but instead just putting an image in. So like you might put in a picture of a map, and then the next 3 questions might have to do with that map. Or maybe you put a picture of some annotated text, and then your next 3 questions are asking about, main ideas and supporting details or things like that. So anything you want kids to take a look at and then answer questions about, you could put that image in as just, kind of in by itself. It doesn't have to be associated with any one specific question. And then likewise, you guys, you can also, and there's an example of it. Okay, so like, for example, here's a picture of Illinois. We live in Ogle County. Which county is directly east of us, right? So you could do this kind of a number with kids, just to kind of give you an example. And then you can also put a video in. And this is what's kind of cool about forms, is that you can put a video in and they can watch it, and then they can answer some questions. Now, the only caveat here is that it has to be a YouTube video. So, depending on whether or not your school district allows YouTube, that may be part of, might be tricky. But if you do have YouTube, somewhat unblocked for students, you can bring in videos. And we're going to talk more about some possibilities with that as we move through our hour today. And then, so this is the kind of, this is an illustration or an example of that. You can put a video in and then ask kids questions based on that video. Excuse me. And then the last one is where you can create sections. And we're going to talk kind of at length about sections in a little bit, because sections actually allow us to Well, first of all, it breaks a form down so that way you have a section and then you have to hit next to go to like the next page of the form instead of it being one big long scrolling form. This can be especially good for elementary kids who might get overwhelmed if they scroll down and see that there's like 15 questions, that feeling of overwhelm might come over them. So instead you might chunk it down into smaller pieces for them so that they're not as overwhelmed. But there's also an opportunity where you can have kids answer a question, and then based on their answer, they might go to a certain section. And this is what we're going to talk about kind of in length in a little bit. One example of this might be, like if you're a second grader, click here, and then they might go to some second grade questions. If you're a third grader, click here. I've seen music teachers use this. Like if you play clarinet, go to this section. If you play trombone, go to this section. Then you might have certain questions built out just for those, clarinet players or those kids that are playing those instruments. Lots of different purposes for this, and we'll talk more about it, okay? All right, so what are some examples? What are we going to do here? And this is where we're going to jump in and actually start looking at some forms. So to begin with, when we think about like pre-teaching, before we jump into a new unit, before we jump into a new topic, we might, try to activate their prior knowledge. What do we already know about? My son in 5th grade is studying Africa right now. So what do we already know about Africa, right? And so that might be, one quick and easy way. Like that's a single question form, and kids can respond. I'm going to show you in a little while how they can not only respond in writing, but using a Google Chrome extension called Mote, they can also respond verbally. Okay, they get to have for free, can have a 30-second voice recording where maybe they tell us what they know about Africa, or maybe they watch a video where you're kind of introducing fractions, for example, and then you have them tell you what are 2 things you learned about the video or learned from the video, and then what's something that's kind of confusing to you. So this is where we can kind of activate them, get them excited maybe about an upcoming topic, and let them show what they know so far. That the KWL. So we're going to do the K part of the KWL, right? So this might be some pre-teaching kind of strategies or things that we might do as we start and embark on a new unit or something like that. Then this is where we're going to kind of get into demos, guys. We can use forms actually to guide our kids through learning experiences. So we can do it as part of the lesson. So let's look at that. So I'm going to show you this form, okay? And this form is on grassland habitats. And it's just, a sample. But what it does is it allows students to choose how they're going to learn, how they're going to take in information. So let me click on it. I want you to know that when I give you guys these slides, you guys can click on this. You can even, let me go back here real quick. If you go down to the very bottom where it says get your own copy, if you click right here, this will give you a copy of it. Okay, where you can go in and change it up and have it be whatever you want it to be about, whatever you're teaching, but obviously not grassland habitats. So you can make a copy there. So be aware that on this slide, if you click on this image, it's going to let you just see the form. But if you click down here on that little yellow present box, it's going to give you a copy of it. Okay, so let's look at what's possible here. You guys, first of all, this is a form that's broken into sections. So when I was saying like, hey, it breaks it down, you have to hit next at the bottom of each section. So that's something, first of all, I'll mention, we have to teach to our kids, right? Like they have to look for the next button. But what this does is it chunks the information. So here, today, we're going to learn about grassland habitats. During the lesson, you will be able to choose how you learn. Think about how you like to learn new things. Do you like to read and look at pictures? Do you prefer to watch a video? Do you like to have the words read to you? That kind of stuff. So then what we're going to do when I hit next is we're going to have them be at a place where they're going to answer that question. Okay, so grassland habitats, which one is for you? How would you like to learn some new information? And they can choose. I want to read and look at pictures. I want to watch a video. I want to have my teacher explain it to me. Okay, so let's take a look at what happens if they choose these different ones. I want to read and look at pictures. I'm going to select that one and I'm going to come down and choose next. And it takes them to a section of the form. It didn't go. There it goes. It takes them to a section of the form where, hold on, they end up with this. Follow this link to be taken to the National Geographic Kids website to learn more about grassland habitats. So then they could click here and it's going to take them in and they can explore this page. Okay, so in the form, as you're writing the question or writing the description, you can actually put a link right in there, and you can direct kids off to a certain resource. Okay, so then when they're done, and we won't worry about this part right here, but when they're done, they hit next, and it takes them to kind of the final part of the form where they do a reflection. Please share one new idea that you learned, and why did you learn your new idea? Or what is something you're confused about? Or maybe they're more specific questions like multiple choice, where you're kind of doing some recall and seeing what they remember from the article. Okay, that's one branch of the form. This is called branching forms. Okay, so that's one section they could have gone to. You guys, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit back, and then I'm going to hit back again. Okay, and I'm going to back us up, and we're going to go to I want to watch a video. So remember what this one looked like. It had a link. Now this one, if we choose this page, oops, and we hit next, now this is what they get. Okay, so engage with the video below. Stop the video when you learn something new. Repeat that new idea to yourself. So then the video, as long as YouTube is something that your kids can access, when you hit play, the video plays right in here and they're able to watch it. And then they can go and hit next, and it's going to take them to those same two reflection questions at the end. So what you're doing here, this can be used in a lot of different ways, but what you're doing is you're building out an experience where kids can pick their way of taking in information. Okay, let's go back and just look at that last one. It's very similar to this one, except instead of it being a video that we found on YouTube, well, it is on YouTube, but it's the teacher has created a video. So I'm not going to play it because it's just me doing an example, but this is where you might use Screencastify, for example, if you're a Screencastify user, to create a quick, either screencast or video of yourself where you just do a quick, 3-minute review of some content or introduction to content, or you could read them a quick story or whatever it is, and then they can hit next and go in and answer those questions. Okay, so let's look at this form. And actually, this is the live form that we've been looking at. Let's look at, I'm going to go down to the bottom right over here where there's this pencil icon, and I'm going to hit edit. And what this is going to do is it's going to open up the form for me. And that way you guys can see kind of how I built it. Okay, so what I have are these different sections. Now, this is that floating toolbar that we talked about, okay, right here. And what I've done is I've used this button here to add all these sections. So what you want to do if you ever create one of these is you want to start by creating your sections. Okay, so in this case, I have 6 sections. The first one is the introduction. The second one is the question. Which one of these is for you? Like, where do you want to go? So this is the question, and the kids, based on their answer to the question, this is where the different branches are going to come in. So then we have 3 branches. So this is the first branch. It's the website one. I want to read and explore pictures. Okay, that was the first one. Then the next one was the video. Okay, where it's just that YouTube video that we found about grassland ecosystems. And then the third branch was the teacher video. Okay, so, and you can set this up any way you want. It doesn't have to be even any of this, but this is just to try to kind of show you what it could look like. And then you guys, the last section is that final question. Okay, so here's the part that, just kind of puts it all together. What we want to do is in our question section, I'm going to click on it. Okay, there is a 3-dot menu in the bottom right, and I'm going to click right here. And when I'm down here, okay, there are a couple of options, and the one option is go to section based on answer. So when you turn that on, okay, I'll do it right now for us, then it gives us these 3 options here. So when they want to read and look at pictures, then we're going to drop down this menu, and we're going to say we want them to go to the Grassland website, okay, because that's where they're going to read and look at pictures. I want to watch a video. So now we're going to drop down this one, and we're going to have them go to the Grassland habitat video, okay? Or I want to have my teacher explain it to me. Then we're going to drop down this one, and we're going to go to the teacher video. Okay. So then based on that answer, that's how then they end up going to those different sections. Is it? Oh, great. A question from Lisa. How did you embed your teacher video? So what I did is I recorded it in Screencastify, and then I pushed it from Screencastify to YouTube. And then like down in here, I just did an insert video. Okay. And then I'd have to go find the URL for it right now, which I don't have. Trying to think what I even called it, see if I could find it. But basically, Lisa, tell me if you're familiar with Screencastify, and if that makes sense to you, like to take a Screencastify video and put it up to YouTube. If you want to just chat, or if you can unmute even too if you want to talk to me. So so with every Google account, you actually have a YouTube account. Okay. So like you just have to go and basically you kind of activate your channel, and all of your YouTube videos are going to be just like Google Drive videos. They can be unlisted. You don't have to have it published out there for everyone to see. It doesn't have to be public. Okay. It can be completely unlisted. So then what you do is, you would just record. So I'm just going to do like 30 seconds here and record really fast, just so I can show you what it looks like. So you want to go to YouTube, and then you'd want to activate your channel. And if you need help with that, send me an email. I can totally help you. Okay. So I'm going to pretend that I'm creating a video, blah, 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 blah. Now I'm going to hit stop. And I just want to show you real quick. Screencastify is going to pop up. Here it goes. All right. So let me just hit pause here. So you guys, what happens with Screencastify is there's a bunch of different stuff, and this, we won't focus on all of that right now, but what I'm going to do is come down to the bottom right, if you can follow my mouse down here, to export video, and then you choose like export to YouTube. And at this point, you choose, like, do you want it to be private, public, or unlisted? In this case, I would probably choose unlisted, and then you hit upload, and it goes up to your YouTube then. And then from there, you'd get the URL from it, and you would put it in. So you go like this, and then you would have the URL, right here, and you would paste it in, if that makes sense. So you feel free to email me if you want help with that, because I'm going fast right now, but it is a process that once you do it once or twice, it becomes pretty easy. So thanks for asking. So you guys, after the one other thing I want to mention here, okay, is that after each of the 3 branches, right, the 3 different sections, you need to come down to here where it says, after section 3, what should I do? Okay, because you have some options here. So look, hold on, I keep trying to zoom so you guys can see it easier. But like after each section, I wanted the kids to go to the reflection questions. If you wanted them to just work through the whole form and do each of these, maybe you want them to listen to you and watch the YouTube video and go to the website, you could do that too. And then just have them, go work through it sequentially, if that makes sense. But I had them choose reflection at the end of each one because I wanted them to answer the questions then after they chose their modality or their way of learning, if that makes sense to you guys. Okay. So remember that. Couple things. One, I'm sharing a copy of this with you. So what you guys can do is when you're in here and you've made your copy, you'll be able to come in and get rid of grassland habitats and put in, Civil War or whatever it is you're exploring. And you can change each of these things and have it be whatever you want it to be. You can come in and, get rid of this video and put in something else instead, so on and so forth. But what's cool about this is that you're able to structure a whole learning experience with, different materials, with different resources, whether it's the link to something, and that link to something, you guys, doesn't have to be a website. That link could be a link to a Google slideshow that you ask them to go through, or it could be a link to a document that you give them, so it could be a link to a math website where they practice fractions for a little while, and then they come back and answer some questions or something like that. So, you can link to any resources that you want at all. All right, so I'm going to keep going, you guys, but if you've got more questions, I love when people ask, because then I feel like I'm reaching you and that you're getting your questions answered. So, okay, that's the branching forms. Okay, and then This is just a quick picture to kind of remind you of, what, like the very basics of the branching. But remember that the 3-dot menu is where you're going to choose go to section based on answer. So when you get in there, and if you're trying to create your own and you're like, oh, I don't remember what that step is, this is the step. Okay. And then each question goes to a certain section. So you want to create your sections first. Okay. Another idea would be using Google Forms for kids to do reflections as they're learning. So sometimes I feel like we are so busy in our classrooms that we don't give kids a chance to kind of reflect on their learning. We move from one activity to the next because we have so much to do, especially after a year like last year and everything that's been going on with the pandemic and everything. Like, I get that, but sometimes it's nice to just let them slow down a little bit and to reflect. What do you feel you learned today? Why do you feel you learned it? How do you feel you learned? Some of these questions, maybe they don't have to answer all of them, but maybe each day they do kind of a reflection check-in. So that might just be another idea for you. And I did offer a copy of that as well, so that way, if you want to take it and change it and do whatever you want with it, you totally could do that as well. Okay. All right. So you guys, then our next, big idea here is like after the lesson, right? So what could we do? And I have like a fractions example here, and I want to show you just another idea of how we might use this branching idea. Okay. Let me kind of just do this form in front of you like I'm the kid. So engage with the video below. As the video is playing, make sure you use your superpowers to stop time and work along with the video to practice your fraction skills. So that's what I always told my kids, is that they needed to pause the video, and actually the idea of superpowers I got from a teacher in New York. Can't remember his name, but he was a 5th grade teacher, and he always taught his kids when they were learning from video that they had superpowers because they could stop time, they could rewind time, they could fast forward time. So, anytime we're allowing kids to watch a video, whether we create the video or whether we find something awesome that someone else has already created, we have to teach them how powerful it is. You don't just sit back and watch it like we're binging Netflix, right? We want to engage with the video. So let's pretend I'm a kid and I am watching this video about comparing fractions. Okay. Then I'm going to scroll down, explain something you learned or were reminded of in the video. You can type or use Mote. I'll show you Mote, you guys, a little bit later, but this is what it looks like right here. So I could type something here if I wanted, or I could click on the Mote button, and your kids do have to have this installed. It is a safe FERPA and COPA, like student privacy approved extension. So it's a great one. And what it does is it allows us 30 seconds of audio recording for free. So I could click on it if I'm a kid, and I could be I could be talking and just explaining what I learned in the video. Okay, and then I can stop, and then I'll show you what it looks like for you as the teacher later. Okay. You also, as a teacher, can put a Mote into the question where you can either read the question to the kids, or you could like explain it better or give them tips and tricks on what to answer. So this is me as the teacher.
Compare 3/8 and 2/3. Which is larger?
So, that could help our early readers, right? Or our struggling readers, or just anyone that is going to do better understanding a question by hearing it rather than just seeing it. So here's the idea of the branching now. Let's say 3/8, 2/3. Let's say that I get it wrong. Okay, so 2/3 is bigger than 3/8, but I'm going to get it wrong. I'm going to hit next, and look what happens. Now I'm in a section that says, oops, you didn't get that one right. It doesn't say oops, but it just says watch another video. So now maybe I go in and I hit play and I watch another video, and then I'm taken to another question. And this time I can try again. Okay, so compare 1/2 and 2/4. I could say they are the same, and then I could hit submit. Let me go back, you guys, and show what would have happened if I had gotten it right down here. Okay, so if I had said 2/3 is the larger one, then if I hit next, then maybe you don't have to remediate, you don't have to review and watch a second video. Instead, it just brings you here to the end. Okay, where then you can ask another question, they are the same, and then I'll hit submit. Okay, so a couple things I want to show you, all right, and think about. when we are, when we're building these branching forms, we can do it as a place, as a way and a place to add voice and choice in our class, like we looked at in that first one. Or we can do it as a way to, let kids answer a question. If they don't get it right, maybe they go check out another resource, they go watch a video, they do something, and then they can come back and answer some more questions. So there's all these different possibilities. In terms of the Mote piece, I just want to show you kind of what that looks like. So give me a sec to see if I can find my comparing fractions form. Here it is. Okay, so I'm going to go down here and open this one up. And let's take a look at when we're building it, this is what it looks like. We're in a section called questions, okay? Remember, you guys, that I talked about all these different areas of Google Forms. Well, responses is a place where we can come in and see overall responses. But when we want to get really granular and see what each kid has responded to and how they've responded, we can go up to this button right here. This button right here is a spreadsheet. So I can click on it and it's going to open up the spreadsheet, and it's going to have all of the responses to this form. Now, as teachers, when you guys have your kids on their Chromebooks or whatever, you can have it collect their name as well. This is just a sample form, so I didn't do name or automatically collect email address, but please understand that you would normally be able to see right here and see their names, okay? Now, I'm waiting for it to load up, okay? But if I click right here on the question that has the Mote as a possibility for a response, when I click on it, it just pops up this little box.
Click on it if I'm a kid, and I could be typing, I could be talking and just explaining,
Okay, so that was
explaining what I learned in the video.
That was just me yapping at you, but that could be the student explaining, their thoughts. So that's how easy it is to be able to listen to a student's response. So going back to even that reflection form, thinking about that, it's right here in your spreadsheet. All you have to do is click, and then you hit play, and it's right there, and you can hear them. So it becomes a pretty easy way to be able to kind of get a pulse on how your kids are, even if you just do a 1 or 2 question kind of thing. Does anybody have a question so far? Let me just pause for a second, take a sip of water. All right, you guys are doing awesome. So I'm going to keep going. I'm going to close out of compare and fractions, and we'll head back in to some more ideas. The exit ticket, right? So this, I don't have to explain to you guys what an exit ticket is, but it's a great way with Google Forms to be able to just, have them respond to how they're doing. This is something my son does. He's at a school that does a lot of project-based learning. So, what's an important piece that you've completed on your project today? What did you accomplish? Were you able to work collaboratively with your group? That kind of thing. So keeping in mind that Mote is an option if you have it installed for your kids, where they can, reflect verbally as well as in lieu of writing, or you can have them write. You can do either one. So an exit ticket is just another cool idea. So now let's talk quizzes for a little bit, and let's talk about the functionality that's built into quizzes, because not only can we have it grade it for us, which is great, but we can also use it as a way for students to get kind of immediate feedback on their responses. Okay, so you guys, what I'm going to do is start by just showing you. If I go to forms, there's a couple different ways to do this. So if you go to forms and you want to start a new quiz, so I'm just going to say, I'm going to call this just a sample quiz. This is where I'm going to, this is where I'm going to put the title of my quiz that my kids will see. Okay, you guys, this is the file name up here, and it's going to be called untitled form until you go to call it something. Okay, if I click up here right now, it's going to grab the words sample quiz for me. If I like that, that's great. Or if maybe I wanted to put a number next to it, I could, or you can always call it something different than you call it here. Totally up to you. The form description are those directions. So if you remember, under that grassland habitats, there was text. This is where you can put that text. Okay, so it's just kind of letting your kids know what the form is going to be about, or what they're expected to do on the quiz or anything like that. And then this, it starts out with one initial question, okay? And you click on it and you can put your question in here. So who was the first president of the United States? Okay, and then you can come on down here and put in your possible responses. Okay, so now in order to make this a quiz so that it'll grade it for us and things like that, we want to go to settings right here. Okay, and in here you're going to see make this a quiz. So you're going to turn this on, and then you've got some ideas to explore and things to think about. Do you want to have the grades released automatically? Okay, so do you want them to be able to view their score? And if you do this and let them view their score, then you can have them see questions that were answered incorrectly. You could see questions that were correct. You could let them see point values if you want them to. Okay, these are all things that you can decide. You can also put in like a default question value. So if you know you're going to have like 10 questions and each one's going to be worth 1 point or each one's going to be worth 5 points, you can put that in right away and then it'll default to that. You can always change it if you want one to be weighted more heavily, but it's up to you. Okay, so these settings are kind of things that you just need to think about, and it's going to be per form that you're going to have these settings. So then responses, this is where you can have it automatically collect email addresses, okay? So that way you can see your kids, if they're logged into their Chromebook, it's automatically gonna collect their Google address from your school district. So you can turn that on or off, okay? You can turn on and off whether or not you send. If you turn this on, you can say, yeah, I wanna send a copy of the responses. So that might be something more for parents if you wanted. If you want to allow response editing. So you saw how in some of my forms, I was able to move back and forth, like I was able to go back and change my answer. That's up to you. Okay, so sometimes you might want that, sometimes you might not, depending on whether it's more of an assessment or whether it's more of a learning experience. Okay, this button here where it says restrict to users in, this will say the name of your school district right here. Okay, so if you have that turned on, keep in mind that's fine for your kids, but it's not going to work for parents or anyone outside of your school or school district. Okay. And then limiting it to one response, deciding on that kind of stuff is something that you need to decide. So for example, sometimes I would do like a book vote, and like what book are we going to read next as a class? Well, we definitely want to limit it to one response, right? Because we don't want kids voting more than once, that kind of thing. So but there might be a time when you have like an exit ticket where they're going to do it daily. They're going to actually go in and do that same form each day. Then maybe you don't limit it to one response. You keep it turned off, and that way then they can respond as many times as you want. So those are options for you. As we move down through the different settings, just real quick, let me kind of close. Let's see if it'll let me close the responses section, and then we'll come down here to presentation. You guys, presentation is how the form looks to your respondents, to your students, to your parents, to whomever. So things like a progress bar. If you've ever taken like a long survey, you might see that progress bar at the bottom that says you're 50% of the way there, that kind of thing. You could do that if you want. Shuffling the question order might be something you want to do if you've got kids sitting, in rows with Chromebooks and you don't want them to look at each other's. You want them to, if you're doing more of a more formal assessment, you might want to shuffle the question order. The confirmation message is kind of cool. This is what you're going to normally see whenever you finish a form. It's going to say your response has been recorded, but you guys, you can edit that right here. Okay, so you can choose edit, and then you could write something else. You could say, great job, you are done. Please take out a book and read, something like that, right? Where you're giving them kind of the next steps to do after the form. Or maybe this is something that went out to parents and you say, thank you so much for sharing information with me. Please feel free to email me. Then you type your email address, and then they can click on it and email you if need be. Okay, so that's what they see on the very last page after they've hit submit. And then you can choose to show a link to submit another response. So that would be like, if you wanted them to respond again right there, then it'll say like submit another response, and it'll start the form over for them. So let me show you what happens with some of these. if you turn on like this manual feedback, let's talk about that for a second. So let me put this up in present mode so you guys can see it more clearly. So if you choose immediately after each submission that you want kids to be able to see the missed questions, you want them to be able to see the correct answers, things like that, then when they're done taking the quiz, they will get a screen that looks like this. And it says, like I showed you, your response has been recorded, view score, and submit another response. Okay. And this, what's really cool about this is that you can build in feedback to the form. So what kids will see if they click on view score is, first of all, they're going to see this. So they're going to see what what answer was that they chose, and then they're going to see the correct answer. Okay, so if you want to build this more of a learning experience, you can. And then if they got it right, it will look like this. So this is an incorrect answer, and then this is a correct answer. Okay, those are like basic answers, but then you can also build in feedback for them. And I'll show you how to do this in just a second. So what's awesome is that if they get it right, you can take the time if you want to put in feedback. Way to go, that's the correct answer. You've got a good memory, or whatever you want to say. So that's a possibility for positive feedback. And then if you wanted to, you could also say, hey, nope, you didn't get this one right. This question stumped you. Check out the link or watch this video and come back and try again. So you can actually offer resources in the form of either a link or the form of a quiz, or I'm sorry, a video, so that they can go and check that out. And I'm going to show you this live in just a second. So like, for example, this question stumped you, check out this link. So it could be a link, or it could be just the video, okay, or the video and the link. It's up to you. You can do whatever you want there. So let's look at that live. Give me 1 second to get there here. Let's see if it links me. Where is my president's quiz? I thought I had it linked in here. Maybe I have it linked right here. All right. No, I didn't. All right. Sorry. I'm going to forms.google.com. I have to go look for it, guys, because I forgot to create a link, but it won't take me long. So I'm going into my Google Forms here, and I'm going to type in presidents. All right. US president's quiz. Here it is. All right. Let's go in, and I'm going to take it so you guys can see it. So I'm going to go up right here to this button. That's the preview button. Okay, so it's this little eyeball right here. And then that opens up a new tab where I can go in and take it. So let's get one of them right. We'll get this one right. We'll get this one wrong, and we'll get this one wrong, and we will hit submit. Now, here are all of those different components that we talked about. Okay, so this could say something like check, like hit the purple button below to check out what you got right or wrong. So you could give them directions right here to, to what to do next. This is that submit another response button if you want to put that in there. But let's hit view score. And now as the kid, this is what I'm seeing. Okay, so, way to go, correct answer. This question stumped you. Check out this link for more information. So then the student can click right here on the link, and it'll take them to, a resource that you push to them, so that way they can go review, and or they could do a video here as well, where they can go in
cool school project
and rewatch something. So let's look at how we can kind of build in this feedback. I'm going to close out of these tabs here. So you guys, the way that it works when you're building a quiz is that once you've gone into settings and you've turned on the quiz, okay, then you're going to get this down here. You're going to see answer key. An answer key is a link to take you into where you can put all these answers. So for each question, what you need to do is click on the thing that's going to be right. So you're going to select one of the responses and have that be the correct answer. You're going to put your point value up here, okay? And then at the bottom of each one, let me just make a, hold on 1 second. Let me just make a new one for you so you can see it. Sorry, yes, no, okay, answer key, because I already had it. You're going to see this button here, add answer feedback. Okay, so when you click on this, you can say incorrect answers. Oops, this one stumped you. Oops, can't spell, stumped you. Check out this website for more info or to review or say whatever. And then you click here on the website and you can paste the link in right here. Okay. It'll either just have the kind of the ugly URL if you want, or you could put the name of the website here. But this is optional, you guys. You don't have to type anything here if you don't want. But like that National Geographic Kids, let's just do the grassland habitat one for something quick. Okay, so I can just copy this URL. So I came over to this website and I'm just grabbing the URL here, doing Control-C, coming over here now, link to, and I can paste it in, and I could say like grassland habitats. And then you hit add right here. Okay, you can also do a video if you want, and that's just going to throw you right into YouTube. Let's just do a quick search. Okay, so you can find one that you want, and then we'll hit save. And now we've done both for kids. Okay, and the video shows up here and then the link shows up here. So then if they go and they get, oh, I didn't mark one right or wrong, hold on. We have to say which one's right or wrong here. So we can say yes is the correct answer. So we've built in right now, we've built in feedback for incorrect answers, but also guys, we can also, and I'm looking for how to do it. Oh, here, let me edit the feedback. Inside the feedback, I apologize. If you want to go in and edit your feedback, use this little pencil right here. We can also go in and give some feedback for correct answers. So you could say, way to go. And if you wanted to, you can give them a video to watch, like you get to watch something fun now, or you can just say way to go and you don't have to do anything at all. You know, you don't have to build this feedback in, but that's kind of, you know, the whole point to our session today was looking at how we can create these opportunities to build in some automatic feedback for kids as they're working through Google Forms, you know, in order to support them, right? So what questions do you guys have kind of about that process? Anybody have a question? Does anybody use this already and want to share how you use it? All right, you guys are good. Then I'm going to keep going and close out of those tabs. And let's take a look. All right, we looked at all of this. So then what we are left with, you guys, is the idea of, you know, using audio and video in forms. And I think when we think about this, we want to think about providing support for our kids. So anytime that you are willing to record your voice or record a video of your screen, you are giving your kids a gift. You are giving them the gift of you, and you are giving them the gift of being able to watch you as many times as need be, pause you, rewind you, that kind of thing. So how might we do it? So these would be my top 3 when it comes to forms, like what we want to do. Okay, so in these slides, you guys, there's a link to Mote. All right, this Mote link is going to take you to something called the Chrome Web Store. Okay, the Chrome Web Store in your district may have it set up differently. You may even have it installed already, but if you don't have it installed, over here on the side, instead of saying remove from Chrome, you're going to see add to Chrome. Okay, and when you install it, once you've installed it, what you need to do is you need to refresh whatever page you're on, okay? If you have a Google form open, if you have a Google slideshow open, anytime you install an extension, you need to do a quick refresh, because that extension then has to like kind of orient itself with your Google stuff and just makes it work, okay? So what you need to know about Mote is that you as the teacher need to have it installed, and then your kids need to have it installed as well. And then anywhere that you see the purple button, the little purple circle, like I see it right here in slides, you can click on it and you're going to get this little, like in slides, you get this little box that pops up. It can be moved around if you want, okay? And then you can click on it, and now I can record up to 30 seconds. So if I'm a teacher and I'm pushing out like slides to kids and I want to read the stuff that's on the slide, or if I want to explain to them what to do on a slide, then you've got that option. So I'm going to hit the check mark now. And what it does is it's automatically taking that recording and storing it in my Google Drive. Okay, I could hit play and I could listen to it.
And now I can record up to,
Okay, I could delete it if I didn't like it. I can also hit insert. And when I hit insert, it's going to insert itself right here into the slide. Okay, when you have Mote installed, so here it is. So we can make it bigger and smaller. We can move it around. Okay, so that's here in slides. But when you have Mote installed, it works in all your, like a lot of your Google products. Okay, it's going to work in slides. It's going to work in Google Classroom. It's going to work in Google Sheets, and it's going to work in Google Forms. So when you're creating a form, the places that you can put stuff is, I'll show you, anywhere you basically, anywhere you're going to see the little purple button. So this is where you could ask a question. What is the next step in your project? Okay, so then you could record not only to read the question to kids, but also potentially to just further explain. All right, boys and girls, so in this question, I want you to tell me what the next step is for your project. So we've been working on our projects for a while, and I kind of want to check in with all of you, see where you're all at. So tell me what's coming up next for you. Tell me maybe what you've already finished, but what you're going to do next. So maybe, you know, you're not only reading the question to them, but you're giving them a little bit more, and you're allowing them to hear your voice. And then when they go to listen, or when they go to respond, they're going to see this here.
all right, boys and girls, so in this,
And they can just hit play. But again, they need to have it installed in order for that to work. Okay, so Mote is, you know, it's a fantastic little tool. I don't pay for it. The paid version only lets you do 90 seconds. So typically I, you know, would try to keep things short and sweet for kids anyway. But, you know, the paid version does allow for 90 seconds, although it's not something that I typically pay for. And then you guys, we kind of already talked, and I know we're almost out of time. We're down to like 4 minutes. We already kind of talked about Screencastify and YouTube, but that's where then, you know, you could take any video that you create yourself. And remember, Screencastify is free also for up to 5 minutes of a video. And for elementary kids, there's no way that I'd expect them to watch a video much longer than 5 minutes anyway, unless you were doing it in a whole different program where you were inserting questions along the way, because their focus just isn't going to be there. So I would keep videos short and sweet. I would rather do 3 3-minute videos than one 9 or 10 minute video, just for focus and for engagement. Okay, so keep in mind that, you know, you can use Screencastify. Now you can't take a Screencastify video that's in your Google Drive and put it into Forms, but you can publish it to YouTube like we looked at earlier. And like I said before, if you have questions with that, you know, you can always email me. So there's, you know, these are just a couple slides for the why, which is what I've been kind of explaining of why we might want to use audio to support our kids. So not only to let them hear the question and a better explanation of what to answer, but also for them to be able to share their ideas verbally can be really awesome. And then you guys, I just kind of finished this up with a quick little, like, if you don't have Screencastify or if you don't have Mote, here's how you do it, right? So this is what you do. And so these are little kind of flow chart graphic-y kind of things to kind of walk you through the process of using these different extensions in case you aren't, you know, aren't familiar with doing so. And then just keep in mind that, you know, you can always reach out to me and I'd be happy to help, you know, in any way. So let me show you a couple things. One, there's a feedback form right here where you guys can give us feedback about these sessions. This is a link here to more information about these sessions, like the next ones that are coming up, okay? And if you would like, I'm gonna throw the link into the chat and you can take off if you want to, but if you would like to do a final reflection, like, hey, before we started this session, here's what I was thinking, but now I'm thinking this, or this is something I learned, or, you know, this is something I'm excited about, whatever, you know, whatever works best for you. And I am going to grab the link right now to these slides. That way you guys can grab them, bookmark them. All right, you can always email me too. My email address is in here. And then let me also just put the link to the website that has more information about our next sessions. Thank you, Kristen. I appreciate the feedback. I'm glad that you hopefully got some ideas today and maybe learned a couple new things. If there's anything I can do to help you guys, you know, always feel free to email me. My family knows I really like emailing teachers back and helping teachers better than I like cooking supper. So, you know, every chance I get, I'd like to connect with you. So please feel free. You know, if I can support you in any way, I would love it. All right. So you guys have a great day. Have a good Thanksgiving next week. I hope you have a nice long break. All right. Thanks, Lisa. I appreciate your feedback. You guys have a good one.